Wow, look at that. All right. Rita, Lynn, Gail, and everyone else in the room, thank you for your patience today. I'm Reverend Jeff Staton. There's some new faces in the room for me today. It's really great to be here, as always, as part of the Tulsa Center for Spiritual Living. This month's theme, as you heard teed up last week from Reverend Lynn, is the soul's call. And the theme this week is leaning into discomfort. And it was funny because as we started today, people were talking about little health issues and eye things going on and all sorts of things that happen over time with folks. And, you know, we have some discomforts in our life. Well, Carl Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. The soul's call is this deeply intimate, challenging, and exponentially powerful and globally beneficial work we are invited to do daily. Globally beneficial because when one of us awakens, it affects and evolves all of global consciousness. Now, I may have told this story before, but one of the things we honor at Centers for Spiritual Living is all paths to God. All paths, many paths. And one of them is the experience of the Buddha. And Siddhartha Gautama is the founder of Buddhism who lived during the 5th century BC. He was born into a wealthy family and as a prince in what is now present-day Nepal. Gautama lived an easy life. He was moved by the suffering in the world, however, beyond the walls of his sanctuary home. He was disturbed by thoughts of sickness and old age and even death. So he decided instead to give up his privileged life to become a homeless mendicant, seeking peace of mind as he lived on the streets in poverty and witnessed poverty and pain. But when this didn't fulfill him, he promoted the idea of the middle path, which exists between two different extremes. Thus, he sought life without social indulgences, but also without deprivation. After 6 years of fruitless frustration and suffering and in his journey for peace, the future Buddha became determined to realize enlightenment. How? Through meditation. He sat beneath a fig tree now known as the Bodhi tree and entered into a deep period of meditation. And he vowed to remain in meditation until he had fulfilled his quest. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes 10 minutes of meditation is a lifetime, right? As he sat, he was tempted by the demon Mara to give up the quest. Mara brought his most beautiful daughters to seduce Siddhartha, but he did not move. Mara sent a demon army to frighten Siddhartha, yet Siddhartha did not move. Mara then conjured a vast army of terrifying demons who ran screaming towards Siddhartha. Feels like a Halloween thing, but Siddhartha did not move. Finally, Mara challenged Siddhartha by demanding to know by what right he claimed his enlightenment. Mara boasted of his spiritual accomplishments, and his demon cried out, "We bear witness to this. Who will speak for you, Siddhartha?" Siddhartha reached his arm out and right down to touch the earth, and the earth itself roared, "I bear witness." Then the morning star rose in the sky, and Siddhartha realized enlightenment and became the Buddha, or the one who is awake. So Siddhartha, the Buddha, did not just snap his fingers and attain enlightenment, nor did he turn away from awareness of the tremendous suffering in the world. There is no doubt that in the world of form that we're in today, that we can see pain, we can see suffering, and we sometimes experience it ourselves. If humanity is to awaken to its spiritual magnificence and a world that works for all, which is a powerful objective of our organization, the Centers for Spiritual Living, then perhaps discomfort can be one of our gurus. Individually and collectively, we can choose to dive deeply into areas that we might sometimes shy away from, like politics, privilege, Black Lives Matter, spiritual activism, or God forbid, cryptocurrency. You know, sometimes in our world today that we are called to to move into what's happening in the world. And our organization is sometimes called to a greater movement into not being against something, but standing for the core values and principles that we believe in an organization. Yet at the same time, leaving enough room under the big tent for those people with differing opinions to be welcome into the conversation. It's not an easy thing to balance. What better way then to dive deeply into those discussions than from a place of being grounded like the Buddha? Perhaps this month's theme won't resonate for everyone. You know, we're in touchy subjects about pain and discomfort and suffering. And Reverend Lynn, I love the twist that you put on last week to pull together the feeling of the soul's calling. But I also say that when we are grounded and from a place of deep meditation, that we have a greater willingness and acceptance to see the experiences that are happening in the world today. As Siddhartha was called to look beyond the walls of his life, we can do that too. By turning on the television sometimes, or looking at social media, or reading the news, or even sometimes talking to friends that have differing opinions than we do, we can see the profound disconnections and divergently different opinions around the world. Looking right now, here we are maskless. You know, it's the beginning of the end of the pandemic in our country, thanks to good choices and increasing percentage of vaccinated people. But we can look into other corners of our city and our country and the world and still see tremendous suffering and lives being lost due to poverty and illness. As we are truly healthy and awakened, and until we all are truly healthy and awakened, we can but do the work that we need to do in our own lives of being grounded in knowing the truth, in seeing the best of a full, whole, and healthy world, while still not denying the fact that there is pain and suffering right now. That when we have this deep practice of meditation and spiritual practice, like Reverend Lynn talked about last week, perhaps then we can too be inspired to take action from a place of love, whether that's lobbying a politician, or talking to a neighbor that you disagree with, or sending money off to the Greenwood district in Tulsa, Oklahoma to help make a difference in the world. That these are things, when we do them from love and beauty and a sense of being grounded and knowing that there's a better place for our world today, then the outcome can only be better. So let's talk about pain and suffering in the process. You want to? As I said, sure, right? One of the things from this week's talk is a concept that says, what you see is what you see with, right? So if my head's down and I'm feeling depressed and I'm not open to the world, I'm going to see the pain and suffering in that light. When I know the truth beyond the pain and suffering, I can see it without denying it, but still believe that there's a better outcome for our world. And that through forgiveness, it allows us to unburden ourselves with those things that draw us down. That's things like anger and disillusionment and frustration and pain. There's three main talking points this week. The first is that pain is there for a reason, suffering is optional, and that we can forgive ourselves and forgive others in the process. Khalil Gibran said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding." Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. In the science of mind, we know that we are perfect, whole, and complete. If our lives are manifesting in a way that doesn't appear to be perfect, whole, and complete, or causes us pain, then perhaps there's a thought in the way. There's some way of thinking, some patterns, some habits that are in the way. It's causing an untruth, and it doesn't lend ourselves to the integrity of our being or the integrity of our good and positive thoughts in the world. If there is pain, the question is, what is getting in the way of our natural state of health? So this week, I chose to stay home instead of traveling for work. My work takes me all over the world. And I traveled last week and saw a trip coming for this week. And on Monday morning, I got up early and I went to the gym and I came home and this magical thing happened. The house was quiet. Because normally by the time I get home from the gym, the kids are waking up and getting ready for school. Kim's preparing things. The dog is, there's just all this busyness. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's summer. And I quickly got a glass of water and went and sat in my place for meditation. And I listened to music, did meditation and prayer for 20 minutes. And then I thought, well, I haven't journaled in a long time. Reverend Lynn talked about journaling. So I went over and started journaling. And I said, wow, what came out of that is this is a week for self-care for me. Whatever work needs to be done in another city, it can wait. But this is a time to take care of myself. And I hope to be able to continue this beyond just this week and when the kids are out of school. So it was such a great week for me because that morning practice lifted me up. And guess what? After the morning practice, I listened to National Public Radio and I watched the news and I grabbed my coffee and I walk into the office and the trouble things start popping up. And I found like, wow, I'm better able to deal, not ignoring with. I just felt raised up, Chris. I felt raised up by that resonant connection to spirit and to God in that moment. Now, at the same time, I also realized as I was journaling that I've been living with discomfort in a lot of ways. I have physical issues that are bugging me this week. And I thought, wow, what is this all about? And one of the first ones is I've got floaters in one of my eyes. Anybody have those? I hear it happens over time. And it's a big one. So my vision's off a little bit in this eye. And I realized when I thought about this is that my brain, my body is going to fix this for me. That this little thing that's floating in my eye is going to curl up into a ball. And eventually my brain will say, you don't exist anymore. And in the meantime, I get to look at this beautiful art that flicks in front of my eye every now and then. And it's okay. So this was a reminder for me to come back and remember that my body knows how to fix itself in many, many ways. And I can treat this as a distraction and an annoyance, or I can embrace it. So I chose to embrace it until it goes away. The other thing I experienced is I woke up one morning to go to the gym and my knee was really sore. And I thought, okay, do I go hop back in bed? There's some people nodding in the room, right? You know, like, oh yeah. My knee was sore, and I thought I could go back to bed, or I could I can walk. I'm okay. Let me go to the gym. So I used my intuition. And I went to the gym and listened to my instructor and used my body. And some 20 squats later, the pain was gone in my knee. It was like the body just needed to be used. And I was at a point of discernment. Do I let this pain limit me, or do I move prudently through exercise until I see how I feel good? Now, Louise Hay says that a pain in the knee has to do with stubbornness. And at the same time, another thing I've got is a ringing in my ear. Anyone have that? I don't know. That's stubbornness too. So I thought, wow, what am I holding on to in my world here? What am I resisting? What am I insisting that it be a certain way? And I know that through groundedness, through practice, through spiritual prayer, that I'll be able to discern what that is. And the other thing is to continue to listen to my inner voice. I mean, I feel like I'm at the nursing home talking about aches and pains. But another little thing that I have is my shoulder has been sore. Right? Another silly thing, I lifted a bag of dog food in a way that I knew halfway there, I was too late. I said, this is going to hurt. But what I remember there, and what Louise Hay here, she says, shoulders represent our ability to carry out experiences in life joyously instead of carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. So when we have pain and trouble in the shoulders, that we're holding on to that pain too much instead of moving joyfully through the experience. But what I was able to remember through that inner voice was, this has happened to me before. there's a way through this. I can move and stretch. I can be careful. I can get Dale to give me a massage. That there are ways to move through this without being in a place of fear. There are ways to move through it. And this week of self-care is one thing that makes a difference to be able to stay connected to my God. All right, one more. Toes are hurting. So this is like, I feel like we should have youth service here, right? We can do head and shoulder, knees and toes, we can do kids songs here. But and toes, according to Louise Hay, is worrying about the minor details of life that are in the future that haven't yet happened. So I'm thinking, okay, I've got 2 kids who are seniors in college next year, and I have been thinking how in the world am I going to pay for seniors the year after next? How am I going to pay for their college? Where are they going to go? How am I going to make this work? Right? And of course, I can counter that with prayer and with ice and with stretching. That we can do the metaphysical and the physical to be able to move through this. Oh, I do have one more thing. I have a kidney stone. Right.
Now that you don't want.
Yeah, right. So the most interesting thing about this experience is the kidney stone they represent lumps of undissolved anger. And there are some things in my life that I know that I'm carrying anger about, whether it's things on the global scale that I feel helpless to change, or a coworker at work who bugs me. Or just things about life and things I'd like to be differently. Now, I had a kidney stone about 6 years ago, and I was scheduled for surgery on a Monday. And I talked to my prayer partner on Friday, and I said, "Will you pray that surgery goes well?" She said, "Sure, no problem." But she said, "Why don't we just get rid of that?" And I said, "Okay, sounds good." That day at work, the kidney stone was gone, just like that, no pain, nothing. So I'm knowing that this thing that is in my body has the ability to be dissolved through prayer. Why? How do I know that? Because it's happened before. And not just with me, that the power of prayer and connection. Now, if I were doubled over in pain having a kidney stone, it would be hard to ignore the pain. And I'm also not ignoring it. There are ways just to connect with it, right? To be able to experience that. And that I can meet those pains and suffering that I see in the world, and that people are still dying in this country today in lots of different ways, that people are hurting. But it doesn't help for me to hold on to that anger. And that the work I can do, like the Buddha, saying who gives me that right? It's the earth, it's the grounding, it's my connection to love and to spirit. And each of us in this room have that connection. And we can turn it on and amplify it through our spiritual practice. Beyond all of these pains is a metaphysical explanation. There's a message, there's a path forward to healing. And the answers can come from so many different ways. The support of a practitioner who can know the truth in ways that I may not be able to find. Through a prayer partner, through meditation, through prayer, through movement, through community, through coming to church on Saturday evening or Sunday morning, and remembering the past times when we were able to move through this, not just me, but others. We live as examples to move through life. And I also recognize that healing's not always immediate. I know that my prayer is done perfect, whole, and complete in the mind of God, and that we are individualized expressions of that God, filled with all of these things, that barriers that we put up, and that it can take patience sometimes, patience and faith and confidence. Pain is inevitable sometime in our life, whether it's emotional from the loss of a loved one or a friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. At the very least, we'll stub our toe and fall down and get sick. And how we deal with the pain, however, is up to us. Suffering is optional. Suffering is called by the illusion that we should never have pain, right? So if I'm walking into this life experience and I now have it, boom, I can say, well, this shouldn't happen. This is wrong. Why is this happening? And I go down the swirling sphere of suffering. And I may need to do that a little bit. We all may need to do that a little bit, right? We might be, our suffering may be related to being angry with the God of our understanding, right? I'm looking for, there's something here that I'm upset with, right? How could God allow this? How could the God within allow this? How could I allow this? But we recognize that there's a message in the pain, and that we can restore wholeness and let the suffering go away. I think about a lot of this often as a parent. I know there's a lot of parents in the room. And I remember there was a time where I thought, like, my job is to make sure my kids don't suffer, that they're not hurt, that they're not, in trouble, that they have a perfect life, that they're protected. And there's an author named Glennon Doyle who I really love. And she said, more than anything, I want my kids to grow to be brave, kind, wise, and resilient humans. Brave, kind, wise, and resilient humans. And she says, maybe our job as parents is not to protect our kids from pain, but to hold their hands and walk through the pain with them, to be witnesses to their pain. This is true for all of us, right? We so have this human nature where we want to rush in and fix everything, right? Here, you're suffering, let me come fix it for you. And of course, we want to love and comfort and support each other when they're in pain. But what Glennon says is, how do people become brave, kind, wise, and resilient? They become that way from experiencing life. Heartbreak, injury, illness, discomfort. They don't need to do it alone, but that we can support each other in this way to move through that, not being in a vacuum, that we have an opportunity to really show up as the kind change makers in the world. And how do we get to do it? Because we've been there. We've been there, and we've had others who've helped us and lifted us and supported us and held on to us to help us get to the place where they can stand on their own 2 feet and to make it through in loving and kindness without having to rescue them. And I'll still learn that tomorrow when something happens with my son or my daughter. I'm going to want to rush in and fix everything just like that. And I'm going to resist that urge and temptation to let them stand, to witness it, and to love them. And we can do that for each other. The third point today is that forgiveness is important in this process. Forgiveness is an open door to the better life. And an essential part of healing is to forgive the self for whatever is happening. Forgive our God, the God of our understanding. Forgive ourselves, forgive others, because otherwise we might end up with a ball of anger in a kidney trying to figure it out. Our bodies are reacting to the work that we're doing. So forgiveness then allows divine wisdom to well up and to flow through our beings, allowing us to get the answers we need, to get wellness, and to evolve. In the eternal now, this is a core concept in Science of Mind on forgiveness. In the eternal now, there can be no place for divine anger, unforgiveness, and punishment. Do we feel that way sometimes when we are injured, when we are offended, when we are hurt? Yeah. But there's a greater knowing that in the eternal now, there's no place for that, for divine anger, unforgiveness, or punishment. If we perceive a need for forgiveness, this is a human condition. Human forgiveness is the process that frees us to live in the now. I'm not harboring anger over what someone did to me yesterday or what I'm going to say to them tomorrow to get them back. I can allow forgiveness, and that then may be me. That may very well be me, to allow me to flourish and to allow me to be in spiritual unity. Science of Mind teaches us that the ultimate goal of life is complete emancipation from discord of every nature, and that this goal is surely to be obtained by all. But what's interesting too, Ernest Holmes said in Living Without Fear, there is this question, however, which naturally rises. Why all the suffering, sorrow, and pain? Why has tragedy accompanied this journey of man? Again, our imagination may answer this question in a plausible manner. There is no other way through which individuality can evolve. Man must be let alone to discover himself, else be compelled arbitrarily to follow one road, in which case he would be an automaton and not an individual. We get to move through this world making decisions, right? Thank God for creating us as individualized expressions of the one that have an opportunity to come back into center and alignment when we are disconnected. So let your pain speak to you of its wisdom, and let yourself seek the wholeness. Lean into pain, lean in to discover the message, and forgive the untruth. Freedom gives us the ability and willingness to live our life the way we choose, to live our life in a place of being in love with ourselves and with others, and with that God of our understanding. And remember that as we are grounded and connected in deep meditation, that we get to not avoid the pain in our world, that we get prepared to welcome it, to heal it, to understand it, and to take a deeper experience of action in our world to make this a world that works for all. Let us pray. Taking a deep breath in of this place of oneness with God, knowing there is but one power, one presence, one life. And I know that that energy of life and all the qualities of this thing we call God, life, spirit, power, that they are also the qualities of me. And they're the qualities of every person walking this world as individualized expression of the one. So I know and declare in this moment and claim that the decisions that we make as we move through this world are God-driven, God-discerned, and are in alignment with our expression for creating a world that works for all. I accept that those experiences of pain and suffering and discomfort, that while they may be other than God, that they are calling us to a greater expression. That spirit is right in the midst of pain. And that spirit and our connection to the one life offers us a way through that experience. So may we all in community be able to witness, be able to support each other from a place of love and a profound knowing that we are deeply, divinely capable of navigating the upsets in our world today. I pray too in this moment for all who are experiencing physical illness or mental and emotional illness or financial disconnects. We know that there is health and wholeness, that there is abundance and prosperity and enough resources for all in our world. And I pray too that those who are making decisions in our world at the highest levels of business and organizations and churches and not-for-profits and governments throughout the world, that they are divinely intuited to remember the best and the highest for all in our population, for all in our world. I'm so grateful to know that there is one God, one spirit, one life, and that it is having its experience as each of us today. I'm grateful for knowing that there is indeed enough for all, and know that that is it, that healing, that health are at hand now. And knowing that this prayer goes into the law of life, divinely settled into the one God, divinely settled into the law of life that responds with a profound yes. I simply let this word be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Thanks everyone here and online. And we stop recording now, right?
Yeah.
And we open up the conversation.
Right.
All right.